All right, hero for the first round. Lost the die roll against an unknown opponent. It's a really strange hand. I mean, we do have a decent early game, but we just don't have a colorless land. Even if we draw a colorless land, assuming it's not an Eldrazi temple, we don't even have enough mana to cast the Reality Smasher. I do have really good disruption though, so I do have the ability to buy myself some time to get to the colorless land. Right now, what did I say during the deck tech? 6 plus 8, there are 14 colorless lands, which, like I said, I mean, remember, you often just don't have, you figure that you would have colorless lands all the time, and you just really don't. Um, this hand is, Noble Hierarch's pretty good to have in any opener. And there are 4 Ancient Stirrings, which provide us essentially in this kind of hand, like we're going to have plenty of extra mana, I think, to cast the Ancient Stirring. So we have 18 sources on the draw. I think I would likely mulligan this on the play, just because it's very likely that these are going to, we're almost on 5 cards. But I think on the draw, it's reasonable. If I draw any colorless land, it's okay. If I draw any 3-drop, it's okay. I guess Matter Shaper I can't cast. I'm going to try it. I'm still testing this deck, so I'm going to keep this hand. In testing, sometimes it's important to keep a hand like this just to see how it plays out. Like if you mulligan this hand every time, you're not going to figure out if this hand's a keep or not. And there are a lot of, if I'm playing against any fair deck, like which generally I'm bad against unfair decks game 1, right? And this is actually a hand that's really good against combo decks. Like I have a Spellskite and Dismember, which are both kind of my disruption for any sort of unfair deck. So the thinking is, this hand is going to give me time, right? I'm on the draw. And if I'm good against a fair deck anyway, like fair decks, I'm going to have plenty more time to find Reality Smasher, to find the lands for Reality Smasher. So because of that fact, like I think this hand is actually a keep. Now that I'm thinking about it more critically, right? Because we're good against fair decks. This hand is reasonable against an unfair deck. Obviously, I don't have a Thought-Knot Seer or a colorless source, but we do have a reasonable, turn 2, play a Spellskite, set something up. We did draw Displacer, so we do actually drew one of our better cards here. One of this double Ether Vial, which could be good or bad. Like a lot of the times when you're playing against Merfolk, the extra Ether Vials are bad, but if they're just kind of dumping their entire hand, it can be really problematic. Going to start off with Displacer here. Hopefully he doesn't have Dismember. If he doesn't, then we're probably in pretty good shape. Next turn, he's going to have a Vial on 1 and 2. It looks like he doesn't have a Curse Catcher, which is good news. It means that, he's not going to be getting way ahead here pretty quickly. Also on Mutavault mana, he decided to play another Vial on this last turn. I think if he had like Island plus Lord, he would likely play it, so I'm putting him on not having an Island. Like once you already have, like I said, the second Ether Vial isn't that great on turn 2, so I think he probably is short mana here, which is going to help us out a little bit. Obviously, the Ether Vials are good, but yeah, look, he's got a Lord of Atlantis, but no Island. He's playing the Adept first. Interesting thing about playing against this matchup, you notice I have a Hallowed Fountain in my hand. Something that's kind of cute, maybe not cute is the right word, but another Smasher. That was one of our worst possible draws there. What's kind of cute is you can actually forego playing an island. Here, obviously, I have to play my island, right? I don't really have a choice. But in this matchup, you want to try not to fetch your islands, because you can actually, like, I have Yavimaya Coast, right? And Noble Hierarch, I can have blue sources without any islands, but I think we're going to go ahead and... what I'm thinking here is I'm obviously going to play a Spellskite and hold up Dismember this turn. I could shock myself to play around a potential Curse Catcher, but he didn't have a Curse Catcher last turn, so I think the likelihood that he has it this turn is, he had one draw step, plus he drew off the Adept, which was obviously an island, because if he had that, he would have played it last turn, I believe, potentially. So I think I'm just going to not shock myself. If he ends up Curse Catching my Dismember, it could be trouble. So let's just go ahead and start with an attack. That way, if for some reason he tries to double block or something like that, I can Dismember in combat. I don't think he'll try that. Seems like a pretty poor play against my deck. And we're going to go ahead and play Spellskite. Resolves, which is nice. And I'll play a Tap Hallowed Fountain. Going to really need to draw a land this next turn. Probably going to just Dismember end of turn. So if I dismember end of turn, what does that cut him off of? Drawing a Curse Catcher. If that's true, I could also just dismember on upkeep, which loses to remand. But after looking at the 3 lists from the MOCS this weekend, I didn't see any remands. So I don't believe that's a card. And if he does have a card like a weird card like Spell Pierce, I'd rather him do it on his upkeep. Pretty sure I'm supposed to just do this on his upkeep. I could do it in combat. We don't know that he has got another Lord, but it doesn't really help me that much, other than the fact that he might animate his Mutavault, but it doesn't really help me anyway, because if he doesn't have Island Walk, right, I have just 1 blocker anyway. So let's go ahead and just dismember this Lord now. Not in love with this play. The other thing is, he could like Silvergill on his upkeep, draw a card. And then he could draw into Curse Catcher. So I actually think that based on what we know about all the Merfolk decks, I think doing it then is fine. I guess the only way I guess Vapor Snag. I guess I have the Spell Skite, so I can redirect to Spell Skite. But if he does Vapor Snag there, it does save him a mana. I don't think there are many situations where he would actually want to do that. But I think that the Dismember on my turn is correct. It doesn't really matter that much. It's pretty close. Looks like he's going to Violent a Lord. Oh, he's not going to Violent a Lord. Okay. It's pretty good for me if he doesn't have a Lord here. He might have a Reejerey, actually, which doesn't give Island Walk. But yeah, our hand is pretty awful. Like I said, drawing that Reality Smasher was one of our worst draws. Like I would have taken the Drowner over it, obviously, at this point in the game. He's just passing no Lord. Okay, well, like I said before, sometimes the second After Battle doesn't do much. Looking for land here. Thought-Knot Seer is not great, because I don't think he's got anything in his hand. I think he's on just air, but I'm going to go ahead and pre-combat cast it. See what happens. Alright, it resolves. I'm assuming his hand's just bad. Oh, it's a Master of Waves. Okay, that's pretty good for me. I mean, I think that it's going to be hard for him to win at this point, unless he runs like a really sick next turn where he like plays a Silvergill Adept into like another Master. But so anyway, interesting to know how Eldrazi Displacer works against Master of Waves. So if you Eldrazi Displacer a Master of Waves, actually none of the tokens die, because it just blinked, like that all happens within the 1 resolution of the ability. So it'll actually trigger again if you blink the Master. So that's something to be a little bit careful about. Intuitively, you're like, oh, that's going to kill the tokens, and then he's going to get more after. But it actually is all the tokens stay. It's really awful. I want to see how. I don't think this matchup is necessarily that good, but I want to see exactly how it plays out, because I think 2 or 3 people top rated the MOCS with it. So it's definitely probably pretty well positioned, which seems weird to me, because I think they're like, how good is the Merfolk deck against a lot of the fast combo decks? I'm not really entirely sure. So he could have drawn into a Master this turn. If I draw a land, though, well, we draw an Ancient Stern. So say if I draw a land, I'm just going to jam Reality Smasher. Interestingly enough, he actually chose to Spreading Seas my Hallowed Fountain, but I do, like, something to keep in mind when you're playing against Bant Eldrazi is that you can Spreading Seas the colorless sources to keep me off colorless. Matter Shaper, or do I want Displacer? So let's think here. If he does blink in a Master, he's going to get 3 tokens, and he can like triple block the Thought-Knot Seer, because I have the Displacer in play, which isn't so bad for me. So maybe I do want the Matter Shaper here. It's a bit greedy, but I just don't want to do nothing this turn, and I'm very likely to draw a land at some point to play these Smashers. So yeah, we'll take the Matter Shaper. It's possible the Displacer is just better, but I already have one. I think the Displacer is worse. I think the Matter Shaper can likely help me find lands for the Smash for the for the Smashers in my hand. So, well, I could have just taken a land. I like this better because it just puts a lot of pressure on my opponent. The only way he's going to win is if he's got a Master this turn. So I really want to just push through as much as I can. Looks like he's just going to take. which means he's pretty much on nothing. We're going to play the Matter Shaper and pass turn. It's funny, we didn't end up playing any of the Reality Smashers this game, but it worked out pretty well for us. I think our opponent had a pretty bad draw. Like, he only drew 3... I guess it was actually a fine draw. Like, if he gets that Master Waves in play, it's going to be a sticky game. But he did not get there. All right, so we're against Merfolk. I like Engineered Explosives and Worship. I don't think anything else is going to be good enough. Worldbreaker seems a little bit slow. It is nice. It is nice to pick off Mutavaults and Spreading Seas, but I just think it's very, very unlikely on the draw that we're going to end up getting the 7 mana. I think that Spellskite is bad. Spellskite's bad for a few reasons. It is like nice as a blocker early, but the problem is a lot of the times his creatures are going to be unblockable. And the other thing is we're boarding in the Engineered Explosives, which we're probably going to put on 2 most of the time. So I think we're going to board out the Spellskites. And we definitely want the Worship. Smasher seemed pretty bad there. Matter Shaper is kind of weak as well, but if I do get into a spot where he isn't island walking me, it's really good. So the question is, I think between our Matter Shaper and our Reality Smasher, because I think that Drowner is fine. Like, Drowner I can cast, if I'm Spreading Seas out of colorless mana, like, I can still cast Drowner, which I think is really nice. I think that it can help me win a race. Where Reality Smasher, actually, which is good at racing, I don't think it's quite as good, because he's going to have a lot of big creatures. It's possible that Reality Smasher won't even be able to profitably attack that often. Yeah, on the draw, I'm going to cut a Smasher. I think that's fine. Don't really think I want anything else. I think that Negate is bad. I don't really think that he's going to have any spells we want to counter. Sideboard isn't really optimized against Merfolk, though Engineered Explosives is pretty... The 3 cards we have are all insane against him, so that's something to note, though. Like, if you have not that many sideboard cards in a certain matchup and more cards to bring out, then you might want to give it a bit more attention, right? Like, if I'm playing a matchup where I need to board out all 4 paths or whatever, I'm gonna want to have interesting. This hand is, I think, awful. Anyway, I'm gonna have, because I do have EE, but my problem with it is I don't actually have a second colored source to cast it for 2, which is where I would want to cast it. Don't have a mana guy. I do have a Temple and Cavern, which are both quite nice. Do have enough colorless sources. I don't even have a Plains for paths, so this is just small. Okay, this hand is not the best, but I like it better. Let's go ahead and keep and scry Displacer. I think I'm going to top that, because that gives me a turn 2 Displacer. I do kind of want to land so I can cast EE for 2, but I want to save the EE for 2 as a surprise. So it's not like I need to cast it on turn 2 anyway. And I want to be not necessarily proactive, but I just want to put cards in play. So here we have another EE. I think we need to take one of the lands. It's kind of interesting, right? Because the Yavimaya Coast, I think, is what we want, just because it's colorless. Windswept Heath is just going to deal us damage. Thins our deck, but that's not really relevant. Yeah, we just want the coast. It's not really close, because I want another colorless source in case he's Spreading Seas me, and it gives me mana for Engineered Explosives. We have to take 1 damage. We're probably only going to take 1 damage from this coast throughout this game, I would guess. And like right now, I don't have mana for Drowner of Hope. Yavimaya Coast gets me that. Windswept Heath, I have to take 3, or put it into play tap at some point to make that work. So let's see what he does here. He's going to play Silvergill, so I think I'm just going to play Master of the Pearl Trident, the Temple. Play the Displacer. Hope he overloads on 2 drops, and we can get him with the Engineered Explosives. Ooh, another Temple is pretty nice. Can potentially smash her next turn now, which is pretty cool. If I can put enough pressure on him where he's on the back foot, like I think it's gonna be very hard for him to beat an Engineered Explosives. He has a Master. Played a Mutavault. Yeah, I was gonna say he might not have another blue source, but Looks like he does again. It's possible that he just plays Mutavault out on turn 2 on the off chance that he can get in damage with it against me. Because that's the second game in a row that's happened. Reveals Master. Plays a Spreading Seas. Okay, this is kind of what I wanted to happen, right? Because now he's not developing his board. He can't even really attack. And I can still even play a Thought Knot next turn. Ooh, Vapor Snag. That's really aggressive. But I think it's probably right for him. Like, I'm going to start dropping Eldrazi pretty soon. He doesn't have that much of a clock on me. But we are ahead on cards. We have the EE to blow up the Spreading Seas eventually, which will be good. But yeah, let's go ahead and just Thought Knot him. And I'm imagining he's just going to have a ton of trouble in this game. I mean, we'll be able to take his best card. Let's write down his hand. Dismember. Harbinger of Tides, actually, now that I remember, I played against this deck a while ago, and Harbinger of Tides was really annoying. But I do have the EE, so I don't mind, like, getting tempoed by the Harbinger in order to just blow up his team. Master of Waves could be a problem. But I do have Engineered Explosives. I could, like, potentially kill all the tokens. If I don't take the Dismember, he can, like, Dismember and play Master next turn and Mutavault. Put me kind of on the back foot. If I take Master of Waves, what happens? He just goes Dismember, Harbinger, attack for 3. I'm under a ton of pressure. I kind of like the idea of my Thought Knot staying around. Can I beat this Master? I do have the Path. I can just Path the Master, play EE for 2. I'm kind of stuck on colored mana, though. I guess I could, like... Because if I end up pathing the Waves, I can EE both the other cards. So I'm just going to take the Dismember. I think the Dismember is going to be more annoying for me to deal with than the Master, because I already have the Path to Exile. And he's going to play... He's going to very likely play Master and attack for 6. Maybe I should have taken the Lord, actually. No, because if he plays the Lord and attacks for 6, I just play EE for 2. And blow him out. So this works out pretty well. Because I think he's likely going to animate Mutavault, play the Lord, attack for 6. Puts us to a pretty low life total, but he just ends up with nothing. So yeah, that was actually pretty well played by me, I think. It also unlocks our Eldrazi Temple, which is super nice. Is there any way I can have 2 mana? No, this just costs me 4 mana no matter what. So I'm using the rate to his turn. He's just going to attack me, and I'm going to have to do it before damage anyway. So I'm just going to do it now. Because he could make a cheeky play and chump block, which, like, he likely wouldn't do it, but there's no reason to let him potentially do that. I can actually leave this back, now that I think about it. Like, he's got 2 Mutavaults, and he's got that Harbinger of Tides in his hand. If he Harbingers it, he draws a card and attacks me for 2. Yeah, I'll just wait. I'll just wait it out. The Harbinger is going to be annoying eventually, but I'm at a low enough life total that I kind of want to be a little bit conservative here. The Master of Waves doesn't do anything because it only makes 1 token. He drew an Ether Vial, which is kind of a weak draw. And also, if I attack him, he could have just forwarded me with 2 Mutavaults and chosen not to went with the Harbinger line. So I think what we do is we just play our Smasher. Play the Smasher. Don't give him the angle where he can bounce this turn. Wait 1 more turn. Well, actually, I kind of want to path this turn. So if I attack with both, he's going to Harbinger the Smasher. So I think I'm supposed to just attack with the Thought Knot. Interestingly enough, like he's gonna Harbinger it, which isn't that big of a deal. The Master does make his Mutavaults bigger, so he's a 20. If I just never attack, is he a... What can he do to eventually beat me? There's not much, right? Yeah, maybe I should have played Displacer this turn. I should have probably played Displacer and just blink the Thought-Knot Seer end of his turn. Because I don't think an attack does anything. It doesn't seem too profitable. His Harbinger bounces it. Then he plays a Master of Waves, which I have to path, which I guess isn't... I mean, that's not awful. I could force him to bounce the Smasher. It's not the end of the world. Yeah, let's force him to bounce the Smasher. I mean, he might not even do it, but he's likely going to just do it. And then I have blockers. If he draws a Lord, it's a bit awkward because then I have to path the Lord. I do have Eldrazi Displacer, which to some extent will end up dealing with the Master of Waves because he's got kind of low resources right now. But yeah. But if he draws a Lord this turn, he can't cast it and Master. So I actually think I'm in pretty good shape. I think that, yeah, playing the Displacer was definitely a superior play this last turn. Because I can just end of turn blink my Thought-Knot. He can Harbinger bounce it, right? But then I get to take Master or whatever he draws off the Thought-Knot out of his hand. This is fine, whatever. He gets ponies, I'm going to path. And he's in top deck mode. So, oh, I don't have an island. I actually don't have an island right now. So a Lord is not... Because I forgot that I blew up the Spreading Seas. So a Lord actually doesn't really accomplish that much. So if I draw any land, I can just bash. There's any land. Oops, I almost said Cavern. What the heck? Eldrazi. So options, I can attack for 9, which seems a bit greedy. I think the best play is to just pre-combat, play the Displacer. Because once I untap, I don't think he can possibly win. Attack with Thought-Knot. That way he can't double block because I have the Displacer. And then post-combat, I'm just going to play the Smasher. Which seems weird, but I don't necessarily have him dead next turn if I attack with the Smasher. So in this specific situation, it's better off to just wait, not kill him next turn, kill him in 2 turns. Because I think I'm pretty sure he's drawing dead. Like, I guess, yeah, he can always, like, Silvergill into, like, Spreading Seas, into, like, Lord. But once I untap, I can Thought-Knot him on his draw step. Drew a Curse Catcher. Okay. Doesn't really do anything. So what can I attack with here? Right now I have 5, only 8 Eldrazi mana, so I can't quite triple activate. I can play Noble Hierarch and take his draw step with Thought-Knot Seer, which I think is what I'm going to do. Just bash with just the Thought-Knot. This does give him the opportunity to chump. If I attack with the Reality Smasher, I can do that anyway and take his draw step. Leaves him with what? If he like goes Spreading Seas Lord, it's kind of an issue. But I'm fine with him blocking at this point. Because he can't, like, if he chumps, I don't think he can win if he chumps, so. He probably will chump with Curse Catcher, honestly. No, he won't. Okay. That resolve, draw step after you draw. Blink, TKS. So we want to always stack it so that the opponent draws first. And thought notes here. There's a window here for him to kill my Displacer, but like I said before, I think I'm only playing around a Spreading Seas into a Lord. So, like, I don't think Dismember actually helps him. And I have a backup Displacer anyway. I'm not going to die this turn if he's casting Dismember. He is thinking. Maybe he drew a thought. Yeah, he's just dead. All right, well, that was a pretty good round one. I mean, we kind of beat him pretty decidedly, though. We had a really sick line this game where we, like, drew the second Temple, played our Thought Knot, got him to play his Lord and attack, and we had EE to just blow up his Spreading Seas and two things. So that's it for round number one.